What's up everyone? Welcome to the Shadowhunter YouTube channel where I focus mainly on sim drifting and togeys and Assetto Corsa, along with some occasional content in iRacing and some other stuff sprinkled in here and there. Today's video is about the age-old question, is the more expensive gear actually worth it? More specifically around pedal sets in the context of sim drifting. My sim rig consists of a Thrustmaster TX, which is practically the same as a T300, just the Xbox version, and with the T3PA pedals and a TH8A shifter, which I'm coming up on about 2 years of use. Unfortunately, recently the clutch spring on my T3PA pedals actually broke in half, so my pedal's a lot more limp and kind of hanging half down, which that prompted me to look into replacing them and actually upgrading them. So I ended up deciding to go with the Clubsport V3 Fanatec pedals. A lot of my friends have been switching to Loadcell pedals recently, and they were all talking about how they love the upgrade. And I said, you know what? It's time I take the plunge. I bit the bullet, purchased the pedals, and about a week later they're sitting on my doorstep. And for the last couple weeks I've been using the Fanatec pedals in my sim rig to get used to them. So for the sake of the video, what I did is I jumped in a random server, did a couple laps with the Fanatec pedals, hopped out, switched my T3PAs in, jumped back in that same server, did a couple more laps, and then once again hopped out, switched my pedals back to the Fanatec's, jumped back in the server for a few more laps. That way the differences and impressions of the pedals were going to be fresh in my mind. Starting us off here with some pros and cons of the T3PAs. With an MSRP of $100, I'd say they're pretty reasonable for a 3-pedal set. They absolutely get the job done, and I've had 2 years of enjoyment of driving on them. To the cons, the feel that you get from the pedals, like the tactile feel, what you can feel through your feet, really just is non-existent. I played a lot in socks. After switching to the Fanatec's, I started playing with shoes, and trying to drive the T3PAs with shoes, you absolutely have zero pedal feel. Although I didn't have any issues with the construction, it is a majority plastic. It's also why they're around $100, but they don't feel the best. It feels like a cheap set. So with that said, as soon as you go to a higher level pedal set like the Fanatec's, going back to the T3PAs, they really feel like a cheap toy. Switching to the Clubsport V3 Fanatec pedals, the Loadcell is fantastic. I really enjoy the way that feels. The tactile feel and resistance of the clutch and the brake is a massive improvement over the T3PAs. Some people prefer putting the extra damper kit or the extra brake kit. I'm running my pedals completely stock how you come when you order them baseline, and they still feel great to me. There are extra upgrades available that allow you to customize how your pedal feels, i.e. the damper kit or the bushing kit. The fact that they are a majority of metal construction, it feels like a really solid piece of equipment that's going to last for years to come. When I got them set up in my rig, hooked up to my computer, installed the drivers, going through the setup menus to fine-tune and set up all your dead zones and everything was super easy, super simple, very straightforward. Within the matter of 15-20 minutes I was driving in a Assetto Corsa, and I was pretty happy with how the pedals felt. In the cons column, I would just say it's really just the fact that they're expensive. They're $350 base price, so over 3 times the price of the T3PAs. And then if you do want to get those extra upgrade kits, I believe the damper is like $80, and I believe the bushing kit is also like $30. If you really want to go all out and get all the extra tuning and adjustments, it's another $110. But I personally don't think it's necessary. It's just all up to personal preference at that point. So after getting used to the Fanatec pedals, I've noticed that I've had smoother inputs with both the throttle and the brake pedal. I use partial throttle a lot more than I used to with the T3PAs. I have a lot more awareness of how much throttle I am using, along with the brake pedal. The real star of the show here is that Loadcell brake pedal. It feels a lot more realistic to a real car's brake pedal, and it's a lot easier to modulate how much brake pressure I'm actually using. With the added benefit of the brake pedal feeling super realistic, and the fact that I play in VR, my immersion level has skyrocketed. There was actually a mild bit of panic the first time I had to slow down a car from a high speed for a very low speed corner, and I almost didn't slow the car down in time. After using the Fanatec for a while, I felt that the T3PAs were just really like cheap toys after switching back, and the pedal feel was non-existent, and even though I could still drive okay, I just was itching to get back to the Fanatec pedals. So to answer the question, is the more expensive pedals worth it? Under the guise of the primary focus of sim drifting, the most important thing in my opinion would actually be having a wheelbase that can keep up with countersteer. A lot of the people I've talked to on Discord with Logitech wheels, they all talk about having to toss or flick or assist the wheel in some ways in order to keep up with countersteers in cars like the WDT street cars. So if you're using a Logitech wheel, personally I would recommend upgrading to a belt-driven wheel, so that way the self-steer of the wheel is a little bit more consistent with real life. In my opinion, the Thrustmaster TX with T300 is the baseline wheel for sim drifting. So if you have one of those already and you're looking at getting a Loadcell pedal setup, I would absolutely recommend it. Since the Clubsport V3s are expensive at almost $400 just for the baseline, I would recommend also considering the Thrustmaster t-lcm Loadcell pedals. They're about $200, so if you're on a budget, I would consider looking at those. The friends I have that use the Thrustmaster Loadcell pedals all noticed very similar improvements and immersion benefits that I noticed with the Fanatec's. So when looking for your Loadcell pedals, I'd go watch the Sim Racing Garage reviews on both the t-lcm pedals and the Clubsport V3 before purchasing either, as there are some differences obviously for the price, considering the Thrustmasters are half the price. But in the end, it's absolutely worth it to go to a Loadcell pedal. I absolutely recommend it, and if it fits your budget, I certainly recommend the Clubsport V3s from Fanatec. Don't be afraid to ask me some questions in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer what I can. Thank you for watching.